Vasyl Myroshnychenko is Ukraine's ambassador to Australia. Welcome to 7:30, Ambassador.
Happy to be here.
Now, Russia is blaming Ukraine for the death of that man I mentioned, an ultra-nationalist Russian blogger, killed by a bomb delivered to a St Petersburg restaurant. The Speaker of the Parliament says it was the act of a terrorist state. Who do you think was responsible?
It's very difficult to say who was responsible for that, but we do know that that blogger was very visible and attacking the Russian Minister of Defense and was actually calling on his killing. So he's been very vocal, cracking down on the Russian government that they're not doing enough in Ukraine. So there could be different scenarios of who could have killed him, but at the same time we understand how that killing could be used for different purposes. Now,
Russia this week took up the leadership of the UN Security Council. What is Ukraine's response to that?
Look, I think this is having Russia, the country which is waging war in Ukraine, Russia which has violated the UN Charter and actually violated the principles on which UN was founded, is currently chairing in the UN Security Council. And it's very unfortunate that they do it. More so, we don't believe Russia has any right to be on the Security Council. When the Soviet Union dissolved, there was no legal procedure that Russia would be reinstated there as a permanent member of the Security Council. And therefore, we question their seat there for starters.
Now, one of the first things they're going to do, I think as early as tomorrow, they're going to convene a meeting, as I understand it, about the issue of Ukrainian children that Russia has taken across the border, the subject of a war crimes allegation against Vladimir Putin. Can Ukraine do anything to prevent Russia from using that meeting to spread or disseminate propaganda?
Look, International Criminal Court in The Hague has indicted Vladimir Putin for war crimes. And the war crimes that were identified was actually related to the children. The children which were abducted, which were kept in Russia, some of them were adopted. And that was the movement of those children which was used as an evidence to indict him and the ombudswoman who is in charge of taking care of the children. So, of course, being the leaders in the Security Council, that gives them an opportunity to set that agenda. And they've done it in the past. But it's important to keep facts straight and have those facts straight and call spade a spade.
Now, just help us understand this. Russia is not hiding the fact of these deportations. What is Russia trying to achieve through the deportations?
Look, often it's to muddy the waters as well, and they use different opportunities how to present their view. But at the end of the day, the fact that they have used the children and what they've done is already a sign of the genocide against the Ukrainian people. We clearly know what they've done in Ukraine and all those war crimes they've committed. They've done them for a purpose, to petrify Ukrainians, to subdue our resistance, and they killed civilians because they could kill them. They deported or actually abducted their children because they could do it. And it's another sign that it's a genocidal war.
Is there anything that Ukraine can do? Is there anything that the government in Kyiv can do to fight back against what is likely to be a meeting used to spread propaganda about the act of taking away the children of your own country?
Ukraine is working with its international partners to make sure that we can return the children. Some have been coming back. Many are still missing. We need to find them. We need to identify them. And we need to get them back into the country. And of course, Ukraine will use all possible international means that are available to make that happen.
Is there anything you can do in the UN, though, to combat the propaganda that you're likely to see coming out, starting with tomorrow?
Well, it's important that we work with our partners closely, and this is what we've seen in the past, where we can be out there publicly speaking about what Russians are doing and actually using UN agenda setting as an opportunity to basically to tell their story. We have to give them the facts.
Now, the NATO foreign ministers are meeting today. How frustrated is the Ukraine government about the delay in fixing a timeline for Ukraine to join NATO?
It's, when I was here on the program last month, we talked about a plan, and a plan that Australian and Ukrainian government should do. What can we expect this year? And Ukraine is incredibly thankful to Australia for the support provided to date. However, winning the war requires focus, and it requires grit, and most importantly, it requires military capabilities and the numbers that we can have to push Russians out. Therefore, we need a plan. And the same applies to all the military assistance which is supplied by other countries. So a lot of that will be discussed on what and when Ukraine can get. Because at the end of the day, it's not about for as long as it takes, but it's about ensuring that Ukraine can win as quickly as possible. And otherwise, if this war drags on, we'll see more death, more destruction, and more misery.
That's a question, actually. Is it possible, given the scale of suffering of the Ukrainian people, is it possible there comes a time when you have to set down arms on the battlefield and look for an alternative solution? Because it looks like Vladimir Putin has dug in.
Every time we free more territory in Ukraine, we learn about this horrendous war crimes which are being committed by the Russians. And this is what we know, and we know what is happening currently under the occupation. We cannot let our people down. And look, since February, every Australian that I met here believes that Australia can do more and should do more. And therefore we need your help. Help is essential. We rely on it, and let's do it together.
But is there ever a time when are people already having that conversation, given the level of suffering and the likelihood of the war lasting a long time, that there is a time when the battle must end and you should put down your arms and talk about a negotiated settlement?
There is no any other country in the world which wants peace more than Ukrainians. And I'm sure we'll be able to achieve that moment where we'll put down the arms. But for that to happen, we need Russians out of Ukraine completely. They should withdraw completely, and this is when we can actually come to some sort of arrangement. But it's only possible when we can restore the sovereignty entirely, and that's the only way forward. You know, there's no way how you can appease an aggressor. We know it adds more appetite. And I think the fact that the world and the free world has not reacted strongly when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014, grabbed Crimea, intervened into Donbass, hence they were emboldened to invade again.
Ambassador, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you.